anyway, there's 13 articles, which is kind of interesting, 13 articles. Let me read Article 13 for you. This agreement shall enter into force in the date of the latter notification or ratification by a party, done in 2 original copies in the Hebrew and in English language, both texts being equally authentic. In case of the divergence, the English text shall prevail, except where explicitly provided otherwise in the schedule. Signed in Jerusalem this 10th day of the month of November in the year 1997, which corresponds to the 10th day of the month of Hishvan in the year 5758. That's kind of interesting that they made sure that those 2 days corresponded. I thought that was kind of interesting. Nonetheless, though, Shimon Peres sold out Israel to the Vatican. And since then, Prime Minister Netanyahu, who for a long time I had a high regard for him because of his stand against Rome and not doing a 2-state solution, but now we see him backpedaling. And he's even gone to Rome and been part of the negotiations of a 2-state solution. And as I showed you in an article on Israeli News Live not too long ago, we took you and showed you all around Jerusalem the building of the superhighways there. And they're building even a checkpoint from Tel Aviv into Jerusalem. A checkpoint. Now I can understand a checkpoint being from the West Bank on the eastern side coming up, because you're coming from the West Bank, you have the Palestinian area there. It's the Dead Sea, from the highway from the Dead Sea. You have to go through the checkpoint because you're dealing with the West Bank coming into Jerusalem. You need to check the Palestinians. But why would Israel be constructing a checkpoint that is on the main Highway 1 that comes from Ben Gurion Airport, from Tel Aviv, coming west to the east, right up through the mountains there? All of this is Israeli territory, and now they're building a checkpoint that Jews, Israelis, are going to have to go through a checkpoint from Israeli territory to enter into Jerusalem. Why? If they're not planning on internationalizing this city. If they're not planning on taking this city for themselves. Now, I told you I had written documentation. And this comes from the very book I've shared with you before, Morals and Dogma, the Ancient and Accepted Right. As I said, there's no ISBN number. You'll see on your screen here, page 816. I didn't photograph page 815 because I'm only reading one sentence off there as it begins there, but it says here on page 815, the avowed object of the Templars, that's the Knight of Templars, was to protect the Christians who came to visit the holy places. Now, we're already on page 816. You should be able to see this on your screen now. Their secret object was the rebuilding of the Temple of Solomon on the model prophesied by Ezekiel. This rebuilding, formerly predicted by the Judaizing mystics of earlier ages, had become the secret dream of the patriarchs of the Orient. The Temple of Solomon, rebuilt and consecrated to the Catholic worship, would become, in effect, the metropolis of the universe. The East would prevail over the West, and the patriarchs of Constantinople would possess themselves of the papal power. Close quote of the book. Did you hear what they said? I'm just going to highlight it again. I won't post it back on the screen, but I want to highlight this again for you. The avowed object of the Templars, the Knight of Templars, was to protect the Christians who come to visit the holy places. Now, this is one of the things that the Vatican is wanting to do, is they're wanting to bring this about. And Shimon Peres, when he was making the agreement, said that they would bring the United Nations in, they would internationalize Jerusalem so that all nations and all religions can come and worship under protection. That's what the Knights of Templars were to do. The Christians who came to visit the holy places. This secret object was the rebuilding of the Temple of Solomon on the model prophesied by Ezekiel. See, so it's supposed to be a secret rebuilding. This wasn't supposed to be let out that the Vatican is a part of this. Not just the Templars, the Knights of Templars, the Masons, they're all the same thing. The Jesuits, that's why you have a Jesuit Pope now. This rebuilding formally predicted by Judaizing mystics. Now, my Jewish brothers, they just call you a bunch of Judaizing mystics. Isn't that interesting? You're just a bunch of Judaizing mystics in their eyes. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, you would make a deal with Rome when they call you just a bunch of Judaizing mystics? Do you not know what they think of you? Of the earlier ages had become the secret dream of the patriarchs of the Orient. The Temple of Solomon, rebuilt and consecrated to what? To the Catholic worship, would become, in effect, the metropolis of the universe. I told you they're wanting to internationalize the city of Jerusalem. That's exactly what they said they would do. And they're going to do it for what? For Catholic worship. They're building a third temple for Catholic worship. It's not for the Jews. It's for Catholic worship. And notice what it says at the end. And the East would prevail over the West. Well, the United States, and we see all the evangelicals, they would be conquered. The East will prevail over the West. The Eastern Christian Church will prevail over the West that kind of got away from Christianity the way that they shouldn't have left Mother Rome. So they're going to prevail over the West. And the patriarchs of Constantinople, Constantine and the group that started the Vatican in 325, along with his Mithras priest that were not Christians. They just adopted some Christianity in there a little bit because why? Constantine wanted to unite church and state to have more power. And then they went and killed all the true Christians off. That's what the Crusades were all about. It wasn't so much to hunt down the Jews, it was hunt down the Jewish Christians that were true believers that kept Sabbath, kept the 10 Commandments the way God intended them to be kept. Anyway, the Constantinople would possess themselves of the papal power. This is how papal reign, this is how Pope Francis truly intends to reign, is from Jerusalem. Through Catholic worship, through the third temple, Solomon's temple, being rebuilt. And you don't think they're going to do it? You can believe they're going to do it. It's only a matter of time. And my Jewish brethren, you're being duped. They called you Judaizing mystics. You know, God will bring our temple to us out of heaven, not from the Pope of Rome. And this is what's interesting. Even on and I've been there myself. I've seen it for myself. I needed to see this for myself. The Ark of Titus, as it's called, right there in Rome, not far from the Vatican, where Titus, when they came back with the temple treasures, the menorah pictured on there and several other artifacts that were brought back to Rome. Now, I know the Vatican was not, quote unquote, a church at that point as of yet. No, I understand that. But Constantine, they hid those artifacts. And of course, when the Catholic Church was first formed, that's who took over these artifacts. And the Catholic Church is proud of this symbol. They state clearly that the menorah coming to Rome was showing that the light of Israel was being passed now to them. Replacement theology. Replacement theologists are going to come to Israel and they're going to build a third temple. They're going to provide the funds. They've already said they would provide the funds for doing it. And they're going to build it for universal worship in a universal city for a papal Catholic worship and papal reign. That's what's coming. That is breaking news. I'm Stephen Ben-DeNoon with Israeli News Live. Shalom.